Welcome to the first edition of the Essex County Ghost Project TV show. I'm your host, Tom Spitalere. This is going to be a new show. It's going to be broadcasted here at LCAT TV. And at the next show, I'm going to make a huge announcement on the scheduling of this show. But today, I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Willy Hassell. Willy, thanks for showing up today
Tom.
in Lawrence.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
I love your new opening, Tom.
Thank you.
Looks pretty good.
Yes.
Cool.
They did a great job over here. So today we're going to talk to Willy. Willy is with owns Beyond Reality Video Productions, and he does historical and some paranormal video production, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
We're going to talk about a place he's heavily involved in on the board of directors, the James House. And we're going to talk some paranormal for over the next hour. We are going to take a quick break at the around the half-hour mark, and then we're going to get back to the show. So without further ado, we're first going to talk to Willy. Thanks, Willy, for coming on. You got this new production coming out, don't you?
I do. This was a great project. I had a lot of fun doing this. As you said, I've done historical, paranormal projects before. One of them being the James House, which we'll talk a little bit about. And I was kind of looking for a project to do. I said, well, I need something to do. And I was looking at Facebook one day, and I saw a good friend of mine, Don DeCristofaro, from Greater Boston Paranormal, with a picture on the USS Salem, filming for the Travel Channel. And I said, I know him. Access. He can get me on the ship. So I gave him a call. I told him, geez, I'd like to go down, film a documentary on the Salem. And he said, yeah, it's a great idea, So he talked to the board of directors and, the in charge, and he got my permission, and we went down and last August and September filming, and it was a lot of fun.
I bet it was warm in August on that boat, on that ship, wasn't it?
There were a couple of days on that ship that we were absolutely drenched with sweat. Fortunately, they weren't filming days. They were just behind the scenes kind of stuff. It was so hot. I remember after we left the ship, stopping to get something to eat, I took my wallet out of my pocket, and money inside my wallet was soaked. That's how hot it was. It's basically, the ship is a big steel box in the sun.
Right.
So, yeah, it's hot.
It is. And also, too, with this ship, it was a military ship at one time.
It still is.
It still is?
The U.S. Navy still owns the ship, but it's leased by the USS Salem Association.
But it's a ship that's no longer being used.
No,
per se.
It's a part of the United States Naval Shipbuilding Museum.
Oh, okay. So it's like down. So that area, I haven't been to the area where the Salem is. So it's kind of like down in New Bedford where they have all those old warships.
No, it's in Quincy.
Oh, it's in Quincy.
Mass.
Okay.
It's at what used to be the Fall River Shipyard.
Oh, okay.
In Quincy, which is where the ship was built back in the 1940s for World War II.
So it did see some action.
So now, actually, it didn't get into that.
Okay.
But so actually now the ship is not more than 100 yards from where it was originally built as part of the Shipbuilding Museum.
Oh, wow. That must be interesting.
So it's pretty cool.
So it was built for World War I.
World War II.
Okay.
It was ordered in 1943 to be built for World War II, but by the time the ship was actually finished, it was 1947 and the war was over. And so it didn't actually see any war action. It was commissioned in 1949 and only served for 10 years. But she did, she did her shakedown cruising down in the Caribbean in 1949 and returned down there to Cuba a couple of times, where she got the nickname the Gitmo Express. And then by the end of the year, she was assigned to the Mediterranean Fleet, where she spent most of her career, and was named over there the pride of the Sixth Fleet for the time in the Mediterranean. I'm going to ask you a question, Tom. What do you think, can an inanimate object, like a ship, for instance, have a soul?
I think all objects have souls.
Yeah.
Especially if there's been energy attached to the soul itself. So yes,
Yeah.
I could see that ship having a soul, because even though it probably didn't see war, I'm assuming there were some fatalities
Oh, yeah.
related to that. All ships have fatalities.
So on one of our first trips down there, to just a scouting trip.
Right.
It was actually my brother. He just said to Don, he said, "Do you believe that a ship has a soul?" And from there, that was it. I went to a meeting one night at KRI, KRI, and I put the question out to everybody, not telling anybody anything about what I was doing.
Right.
And just to kind of get feedback, and everybody kind of had the same answer. And the way I look at it, I think it's pretty much what you just said. The ship, of course, doesn't have a soul. It's just made out of steel.
Right.
But the collective energy of everybody that's been aboard and everything, all the tragedies that have happened on the ship, it gives it a soul. So.
Well, not only that, it doesn't have to be the ship tragedy itself. It could be somebody that was commissioned with that ship, loved the ship so much.
Oh, exactly. That's
retired,
yeah.
Or went through some tough life and died all of a sudden. The
Yeah,
happy place was the ship, not at home.
Exactly.
There's the spirit at the ship.
Exactly. A lot of the sailors that were on board the ship loved the ship, and so they left their energy, their soul with the ship.
Well, I imagine you'd have to love a ship that, even though it's a big ship, you're still in close quarters.
Oh yeah, there was. I forget now. I think it was like over 1,000 men on board the ship. It's a 717-foot ship, which is a pretty good ship.
Right, but when you got 1,000 people,
on there,
now it's a little tighter.
Yeah.
When you have a film crew, you and your brother and maybe 5 or 6 other people, 10 people total, you're all going to get lost on that ship.
Oh yeah, we had plenty of them.
Right.
I got to tell you, it was a fun project. I had a 700-foot Navy ship with unrestricted access to go and play, and it was great. I loved it.
So while you're on this ship, so it saw no battle, but it did have a few deaths in it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, in 1953, the ship responded to the Ionian Islands in Greece as medical aid for earthquake victims. So she was only there for, I believe it was 3 days. But in those 3 days, a lot of the victims from the earthquake were brought aboard the ship, and a lot of them died on the ship.
Right.
And so, obviously, the ship is haunted.
Yeah.
So, the spirits on board the ship are not just sailors. There's women, there's children, ghosts on the ship. There's even a dog. From the people that were brought on, that there was a number of births on the ship during that period. Women that were pregnant brought on the ship.
Right, because of the earthquake, it sped up the pregnancy.
I imagine, yeah.
Well, earthquakes, the people get scared.
Yeah.
You do within a week. All of a sudden, now you're scared, you're tremoring, you're running. Well, that just fast
and
forward.
Maybe you're hurt, and all of a sudden you're on this ship with, with other victims, and so yeah. And also, I forget what year it was, but the Salem was docked alongside another Navy ship, which I don't remember the name of, at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And there was a fire and an explosion on the other ship. Mm-hmm. So there were men brought onto the Salem for that. A lot of them injured, and there were fatalities from that too. So even though it never saw action, it did see
death.
A share of death.
Yeah.
So
I had one of my old Essex County shows. I had a team that actually investigated that on the show. They're no longer around at all that I can tell. But They actually went down there years and years ago. This is when Taps was involved down there, right around the same time Taps was filming the Salem. And they caught a disembodied shadow figure in the galley area.
Yeah.
They did catch a shadow figure down there. I do remember that because he showed me the video of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He sent it to me that night.
Might have been about the same time that I first went to the ship. It was quite a few years ago. It was a public investigation.
Right.
And, Joe Chin.
Yeah,
and,
it might have been the same
Barry
time.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Were there that night. It might have even been the same.
Yeah, they didn't get in there privately. They went in one of those.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
so it might have been that same night, yeah.
Might have been that same night that they caught that. Who was? I forgot who. I forgot. I think Boston Paranormal runs that now, pretty much, right?
Greater Boston.
Greater
Paranormal,
Boston.
Yeah.
What were they? There was another team before them.
I don't know.
Massachusetts Paranormal or something like that.
I
They were running it, or maybe it was the same group and they changed names. I don't know, but that's how long ago. That was way back. I want to
This
say
was quite a few years ago.
I want to say this would have been
At least 8 years, I think.
maybe even longer.
Maybe.
I think it's been. He was on one of my earliest shows within the first 2 years of the Essex County show. So the show's been going. You know, it's the first show here in Lawrence, but it's been going for.
It was
over
when
10 years.
Barry Fitzgerald was doing Ghost Hunters
Yeah.
International, and that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, so that was you probably were on the ship with them the same time.
Yeah, I investigated with him, yeah.
Yeah.
With him and Joe Chin.
Right? No, I'm talking about the kid
Oh.
I had on too. It was
Probably,
the
yeah.
same
It might
night.
have been the same night, yeah.
Yeah, but he sent me the video because he wanted me to look at it, and I looked at it, and I'm looking at it, and he videoed the whole place, so there wasn't like there was any you could get a shadow of somebody else. I know it's hard on a ship. It must have been really hard to do the paranormal because everything's metal, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a luxury cruise liner where it's iron and steel on the outside and some intricate wooden doors.
No, it's basic.
It's basic.
Yeah, basic steel.
Yeah, so it must have been
Steel and
tough.
rust.
It must have been a lot of tough, especially when you we'll go back to when you first went there years ago, to get photographs when you have a public investigation with.
Public investigations. You don't go to them to get evidence. You go for fun.
Right. Now, when you started photographing in here, did you catch anything odd that you want to talk about, or you want to wait?
No, we didn't get anything. You mean during filming?
Yeah.
We didn't get anything on video or photographs, but we all, my brother saw a shadow figure walk across the hall right in front of him. We all heard phantom footsteps more than once, and strange mists and things like that. But nothing that really earth-shattering. Nothing that jumps out at you, but we all had experiences.
All the basic paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
That you deal with on a regular basis if you're in the field. So how many hours of shooting did this take for you to finish?
August and September.
So 2 months.
Basically, going down like once a week. Spending a day down there.
Yeah, because it's almost a 2-hour ride.
It started out at 2, but I got it down to just over an hour without any traffic.
Yeah, because you figured out what time to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know, the USS Salem is docked in just outside of Boston.
Yeah, in Quincy, Mass.
In Quincy, Mass. And as anyone knows, it's driving down 93 at the wrong time of day.
Yeah.
That's a very busy road down there.
Yeah, you can get to Boston in no time, but then as soon as you get to Boston, you go into the tunnel, you stop.
Yeah.
And then stop and go all the rest of the way
Right.
if you hit the wrong time.
Right. So it's about 2 months of filming and hundreds of hours of editing.
Yeah.
And you got about an hour-long show?
That's 35 minutes.
35 minutes.
So the ship definitely is haunted, though. There's been a lot of experiences. One of the, I'm not giving anything away. One of the ones that we talk about in the show is, actually that one didn't get into the show, but I'll tell you anyway. Don walked into the what is called the ward room, one night with another person. There was nobody else on the ship, just a couple of people. And as soon as they walked in, one of the chairs at the table moved. So so they started walking over towards it, see what was going on, and just as they were doing that, on the other side of the room, another chair slid back and fell over. And so they said, okay, something's definitely going on here. And then they heard this, what sounded like a drill, a dentist drill. And the dentist's office was right across the hall from the wardroom. And so things just started happening, and then there was a figure walked by the door. Two people saw it. One said it was a solid figure, and then Don said it was a shadow figure. So they saw different things, but definitely a figure.
They definitely saw something.
Yeah, they definitely.
The question is it solid or was it shadow?
Right.
Is up to anyone's interpretation.
A lot of people have seen figures walking around. There is a sailor that walks by the officers' mess, I guess it is. He walks by quite regularly. He always walks by forward to aft. He never goes the other way. And you can yell at him, do whatever. He won't respond. He's a residual. And this happens all the time.
That must have been one of his last walks.
It might have been, yeah. Or maybe it was one of his happy walks, you know. He's on the way home or something. Who knows? But,
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's always going the same direction.
Yeah, always going forward to aft. Never goes the other way. He never turns to look or anything. He just walks by.
So when this ship was docked and the other ship in New York, you said there was an explosion.
Brooklyn, yeah.
Did this ship get damaged at all?
I don't think so. No, they just took the victims from the other ship onto the Salem. So again, it was used as a makeshift hospital.
Yeah, a makeshift hospital. Yeah. Interesting.
And during her time in the Mediterranean, she also was involved in the Suez Canal crisis and the Lebanon crisis. Didn't see any action there, but she was basically there as a deterrent.
Right.
Because
that was for anybody sitting at home.
In the 50s.
Yeah, that was the Korean War.
Yeah, it was in the 50s. I forget the years exactly, but
52, 53. They would have been down there, if I remember.
It's a little bit
correctly.
later than that.
Yeah.
I mean, the ship at the time it's the only heavy cruiser left in existence now. And there was 3 ships that were ordered at the same time. There was the Uss Des Moines, the USS Salem, and I forgot the other one. But Salem is the only one that's left. The other ones are scrap metal, made into razor blades or whatever. And of course, at the time, I mean, it was a very, right up-to-date warship. I mean, even though she didn't see war,
Yeah, it was
ready. It was a warship.
Right.
Lots of big guns. And,
yeah, you can see that in that picture over here.
So I mean, it was built for war.
Right.
But and then it's had a very short career, really, only 10 years. Christened in 1949 and was retired in 1959 when it was sent to the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard for basically mothballs, where it sat rusting away until 1994 when the USS Salem Association rescued it, brought it back to Quincy, and as I say now, it's part of the Naval Shipbuilding Museum. There is on board, down below decks, one section which is a museum with lots of exhibits and stuff. But most of the ship is left just as it was back when it was in action. And all the cruise quarters, the mess rooms, the dentist office, the surgery, it's all
the barber
still
shop,
there.
it's all still there.
Yeah, it's all still there. It's like walking back in time.
Except for that one section that's the museum.
Just that one section, yeah.
Which is good. I mean, they preserved the ship, and tells a little history of it, timeline in the museum, so that's nice.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then you can
yeah,
walk,
you gotta
after
have
you
it.
look at the timeline, you can walk around and go, wow.
Yep.
Imagine living on this when we just saw, when they're trying to get people on board from this, and this, and being out to sea all these years. It gives you, I've never been on this one, but I've been on something similar to that, and not a ship, but Portsmouth, the submarine. I've been in
submarine.
there. So I'm not investigating it, just to take the regular tour.
Yeah.
And it gives you a certain perspective to say, wow, what these people lived at.
I don't know how they did that. I mean, there's you can't compare
No.
that submarine to this.
No,
ship.
but I'm just saying, the quarters, and it gave you a different perspective of going, how the hell did you live?
Yeah. I mean,
Underwater, near the bottom of the ocean in this thing.
yeah, really. I mean, the sleeping bunks on that are so small. I mean, your nose is like that far from the bunk above
Right.
you, I couldn't do it.
No.
Don, who, got me the access from Greater Boston, he was in the Navy. He was on a submarine.
Yeah.
But, a lot bigger than that. It was a nuclear submarine.
Well, I hope so, because Don's
Yeah, he's a big guy.
he's a big guy.
It was a nuclear submarine.
Oh, okay.
So, he was in submarine service, but that's a whole other story.
No, I know that. I was just trying to compare apples
yeah,
and oranges
yeah, I
with
know.
this. So now I know right now, because this is a nonprofit, we're talking about the USS Salem.
It is, yep.
I want to make sure we know that. But, they got a museum.
Yep.
I imagine right now everything is shut down due to...
I'm not sure if they have public, yeah, I believe so. I think now public can go on, but only on the deck, can't go down below.
Right, because of the...
In normal times,
Right.
you can go pretty much anywhere on the ship.
Right,
I'm pretty sure right now it's just above deck.
which makes
But
sense.
they are doing paranormal tours now, though.
All right, so if anybody wants to check that out, what's the website for the USS Salem for that?
I think it's usssalem.org.
Okay.
But the paranormal would be under Greater Boston.
Okay, so check out Greater Boston.
Greater Boston Paranormal Associates.
Yeah, and if you were interested in doing that, that would be a pretty cool tour to do.
Yep.
Just to make sure you don't have any problems being in tight quarters.
Well, it's not tight down there,
No.
really. Most of it. There are some places.
So is there anything else you'd like to say about the soul of the Sea Witch?
Well, obviously, where did the name Soul of the Sea Witch come from?
Yeah.
It's the USS Salem, built in Quincy, Mass., named after Salem, Massachusetts. What is Salem, Massachusetts? It's the Witch City.
Yes.
So the nickname of the Salem now is the Sea Witch. So that's where we got the name, Soul of the Sea Witch.
Nice. Nice. And now you got this 35-minute production that you spent hours, thousands of hours doing. When are you gonna announce? When can people see this?
Well, let's see. The premiere has been canceled 3 times now because of the virus. But now it is going to be in an online film festival at the end of October. And unfortunately, the festival hasn't officially been announced yet, so I can't say
No
what
big deal.
what it's going to be.
Right.
But this one's online, so it will happen.
Right.
That will be the premiere. I think it's Halloween night, but I'm not sure. It's right at the end of October.
All right.
It's an all-night film festival, but I've been told that we're going to have a primetime slot for this because it is the premiere.
Cool.
And one of the producers of the festival has a big part in the film. And so it's 35 minutes. We're going to have a 1-hour block, show the film, and then do a question and answer afterwards.
Nice.
And to find out when it's going to be, I would say watch my Facebook page, Willy Hassell,
Yeah.
on Facebook. And of course, it also will be shown at
The New England Parafest.
New England Parafest in April.
Yes, which we will get to
Yep.
in a little bit. Anything else you want to say about the Sea Witch?
No, except that it is a great historical place to go. And if you can go now, by all means, go. And if not, when things straighten out, when it does open up, by all means, go and check it out.
Yes, it's looks like a great ship, great story, great history.
Yeah, it is. That's it. It's history.
A little great paranormal.
It's history and paranormal at the same time.
Well, the history and paranormal do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a historical site. I think that's a great segue into something else that you like about history, too.
And what would that be?
The James House.
The James House.
Yes. That's got a little history.
Yeah, the James House Museum in Hampton, New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
A place that we've been investigating for a number of years. We did a documentary there called Silent Echoes, The History and Haunting of the James House Museum, which is not publicly available anywhere because we use it for private fundraising.
Yeah.
But I'm also, there was myself and Lynn Nickerson, who of course you know.
Yeah.
Well. We did that. That was our first video project, actually. And what was I just going to say? I forgot what I was going to say, Tom.
Oh, you would? Oh. So you get the James House, you get the video done. We know there's paranormal activity. We know there's a great history behind there. But we're coming to the end of the first half hour. Okay. We're coming into the break. So we're going to continue the James House conversation. I don't want to start it, cut it, and go back, because we are live. I just want to remind everybody at home, since you're listening in live today, we will be coming monthly or so with the next Essex County live show. I will be giving out more information on how we're going to do this show, but Essex County Ghost Project is here at LCAT TV, and we are here to stay. So we will let you know when the next shoots are going to be real soon. I'm working on a scheduling for that with everything else going on. So, and if you're interested, you can check us out on the Essex County Facebook page, or you can go to Willy's page for Willy's Hassell stuff. And also, too, tonight, if you tune in, I've launched another Facebook show with a team out of Maine. That's going to be going on tonight for the first time, and it's going to be called Tales from the Dark Side of the Crypt, and we're going to be talking about something I've been an expert on here real soon, the Bridgewater Triangle. All right, so we're going to take a 5-minute siesta here, get my head back on, and we're going to come back with the legendary Willy over here, and we're going to talk about the James House. Welcome back. Hope everybody enjoyed their little break. I'm back here with Willy Hassell from Beyond the Reality Video Productions. We just finished talking about the USS Salem. I'm Tom Spitalere, founder of the Essex County Ghost Project, and this is a brand new show on Lawrence Cable Access TV, LCAT TV. And Next show, I'll be outlining a little bit more what we're going to do and how we're going to do this. We are live today, and we'll be shown again throughout the coming week. So just keep an eye on things that we are live today. And I want to thank you all for tuning in at home in the afternoon. Willie, I want to thank you coming. You had a long drive, but you made it to the big city.
It took me 20 minutes.
Wow, you must have been cruising. Cruising with Willie, because I don't think I'd end up doing that drive in about 40 minutes.
Well, we won't get into
No.
Okay.
No, I drive like Miss Daisy, everybody. If you see me, my car on the road, you'll notice you can wave at me and call me Miss Daisy. All right, so now we're back with Willie here, and we're going to talk about another place. He's talked about his video earlier. Now we're going to talk about his other home in Hampton, New Hampshire. Yep. It's another non-profit. It's the James House. Yep. And what was the year of the James House? And you're on the board over there. What's your title? You're the board vice president yet? No. Just the board.
Don't want to be.
No, don't want to be. Okay.
No, just board members. Myself and Lynn, both on the board now. James House was built in 1723, and it was home to, I always get this wrong, I believe 7 generations of the James family. They lived in the house. They worked the land up until 1930, and then the house was sold to the Campbell family, and they were only there for 10 years until 1940, and the house has been empty since 1940. Not abandoned, just empty. Nobody has lived there.
Luckily, the house survived.
So far. And we're doing our best to keep it that way.
Well, I mean, you got a brand new paint job on there.
Yeah, it's almost done. Just one little section we got to finish.
Cut some of the trees off the house, I noticed.
Yeah.
And then there's work to be done inside. There's plenty of work.
There's plenty of work to be done inside. The idea is not to completely restore the inside. They want to leave it so that there are like different phases of construction. So they want to leave it so that you can see the different times of the construction. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done. Right.
But at least the outside, the roof, the windows, keep Mother Nature from going in.
So far, desperately in need of a new roof, though.
Oh, it needs a new roof. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the next thing on the list. But hey, it's haunted.
Yes,
that's how we got involved in the first place.
That place is haunted. Yes, that place is very active. Actually, the land, the yard, the building.
The whole area.
The whole area.
So actually, since you haven't actually mentioned it yet, but I'm also director of Spirit Chasers Paranormal.
Yes.
And that's how we got involved with the James House in the first place. Myself and Lynn went over there to an open house about 6 years ago now, I guess. And we just kind of took a self-guided tour of the house. And you know me, I don't sense anything.
No.
So I had no clue, but after we walked through the house, she says there are spirits here.
Lynn's radar was going all over the map, Yeah,
she says there are definitely spirits in this building. So we said, well, let's see if we can talk to somebody. Maybe we can do an investigation. And that's when we met Skip Webb, who is the president of the board.
Mm-hmm. Very knowledgeable.
Very knowledgeable, yeah. And,
very knowledgeable.
We approached him and we said, has anybody sensed anything strange? Well, have you sensed anything strange here? And, like what? Well, strange, like paranormal. And he says, no, I haven't. However, other people have. Neighbors have reported numerous times seeing somebody walking around up on the second floor and seeing strange lights in the building when nobody was there. They called the police. Police came. The door was locked, padlocked from the outside. There was nobody in the building. And so we said, would you be open to a paranormal investigation, thinking that he was just going to laugh at us? And he said, yeah, actually, I would. So that's how it all started. And he, at the time, was a definite non-believer. He thought even though he was willing to let us come in, he thought we were all crazy. But we he now believes. He's had his own experiences. So.
Well, that's all it usually takes for a non-believer.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I'm waiting on a case in Berlin, New Hampshire. Friends of the family.
Yeah.
Neighbor up there met an untimely death, and after he died, there was legs being ran across both yards during the day, and at night you could see the shadow of legs.
Oh, yeah.
And then the owner saw it, the other owner saw it, and one of the sisters is a non-believer, even though most of her family are believers. And she was out in the yard, relaxing at the pool. She came running in the house screaming. That put the other sister over, and that's when they called me up. But between weather, the storm, this was right before that big, the hurricane that wiped out. Well, some areas got hit worse than others. They got hit hard up there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're still cleaning up. So it's on.
Well, what's the difference between a believer and a non-believer?
What's that?
Well, a non-believer hasn't had an experience yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good one. You're right. The non-believer hasn't had an experience yet. But once they do, they become believers.
I mean, I got to say, when I first got into this, I was, I didn't know what to believe. I got into it to find out, basically. I said, well, is there something else, something going on out there? Is there such a thing as ghosts?
Right.
And I didn't know. I wanted to find out.
Well, that's what most people get into it for. And some people get in it to disbelieve everything. Other people get in it to find out what's really out there.
Yeah. But I mean, there are other people that just all their life they've had experiences.
Right.
And so I mean,
I got a couple psychics on my team that have experiences their whole life. So I mean.
Yeah, like Lynn.
Lynn's another one.
Experiences all her life. And
and then you have people that want to debunk everything.
Yeah.
I could think of one guy in particular, which I'm going to bring him down here on the show. This should be a fun one. I haven't asked him yet, but I'll be asking him next Wednesday.
Okay. Oh, I know who that is.
Yeah.
He debunks everything, but he's a believer.
Yeah.
He just has his own methods, and it's hard to show him evidence that he'll believe. But he is a believer, definite believer.
Right. He can find ways to debunk just about everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
He's a great guy, too. I like him. That's why we're going to have him on the show down here. So the people at home can actually see somebody like him that talks about it and give the reasons why he doesn't believe it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I call myself an open-minded skeptic.
Yeah.
I'm very skeptical of, if I don't actually feel it, see it, or take the picture myself, I'm very skeptical. It takes a lot to convince me that it is real, but I have been convinced.
So do you have any convincing stuff at the James house?
Yeah, at the James house. I mean, it's not a place like it's big things happening. It's kind of subtle. Really, like, little things, but a lot of little things. Like, I have been touched there. I've heard voices. We've gotten a lot of EVPs. We were setting up, me and my brother were setting up one afternoon up in the attic, setting up for a seance that night. And we both definitely heard a woman's voice. I know it was in the attic with us. It was right behind me. And we both looked at each other. And did you hear that? Yeah.
Is that like second room in the attic, I would call, where the doorway goes to the other?
It was right in the big room.
Oh, in the
main part of the attic.
The main part of it, okay.
And so, of course, being an investigator, even though I know the voice was right behind me, I had to go downstairs, make sure there was nobody else there. And there wasn't. We were the only two.
Check outside, make sure nobody was out in the yard walking around. Because it is a public building, so.
Yeah.
Even though it's.
Sort of public,
but people do walk in the yard. You're not going to throw them off the property if they're just walking through. I mean,
no.
It is what it is.
I mean, though I know it was a voice, I know it was a woman. I couldn't tell what it said, but he thinks that she said, "What are you doing here?"
Mm-hmm.
So things like that. And like
Then
I
you had a
said,
ball roll down the stairs, didn't you, if I remember
that's,
correctly?
That's right. That's right. It was our very first investigation. We'd only been in the building for about 20 minutes. And we were all just kind of walking around. Me and Jim were downstairs. Lynn and my niece Laura were upstairs on the second floor. And all of a sudden we heard something bouncing down the steps. And we all, did you hear that? And then, yeah, I thought it was you. No, it's not me. So we started looking around, and we found this little wooden ball about that big on the steps going down into the cellar. And so I picked it up and bounced it on it, and we said, yeah, that's exactly the noise that we heard. And what it turned out to be, this little wooden ball was from a game that the kids used to play back in the 1800s or whatever.
Was it the cup and ball game?
I don't think it was a cup and ball game. It was some kind of a game.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, anybody would say, like myself, well, the ball was probably upstairs and somebody accidentally kicked it. But right after the investigation, we found out from Skip that when we came in there, that ball was in the other room downstairs. So
There's no way it went from
somehow, yeah.
there.
Somebody
to there.
didn't kick it upstairs and then kick it back down.
No.
So, like I say, that was only 20 minutes in, and we just all kind of said, hey, this is going to be good. And that was about 6 years ago. We've been involved with the place ever since.
Ever since, yeah. And then the outside land, you had Native Americans, if I remember correctly, on that.
Native Americans and cryptids.
Yeah.
We even found a possible Bigfoot track. And
Well, that is possible. I just got word from a source up in New Hampshire that there was some possible Bigfoot tracks up on the seacoast.
yeah,
So I'm got to get a hold of Dave. I'll send him up there and look at them and see where the location was and
Yeah.
stuff.
so yeah, there's a lot going on there in the house and on the property.
Well, Hampton is old. The seacoast is old.
Oh yeah,
It's got a great history,
Yeah.
a great paranormal history.
Yeah.
And that's just only one building out of many that are haunted on the New England seacoast.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, let's not even go New England. Let's just talk about Hampton and Portsmouth.
Well, I mean, you think about it in New England. You know, I mean, you might say, well, why is the house haunted? Did somebody die in the house or something? In New England, somebody has probably died in just about every house.
Mm-hmm. Or on the land.
Yeah, when you think about
Right.
it. Yeah.
And if you really think hard enough, you go back in the time, people were buried in their backyards.
Yeah, we believe there are bodies buried around the property.
Yeah. Just they're not marked. They don't have a stone going.
Yeah.
Here lies the body of.
Yeah, there's no marking.
There's no markers, no nothing. I mean, that happened a lot. You got buried in the backyard. Or my favorite story is up on the New Hampshire seacoast, a house that we could never investigate. None of the owners, none of the 8 owners I knew in a short time wanted the house officially investigated. But I did some historical research. They wanted that end of it, so I gave them that. This house is located in Hampton Falls. Not too far from your favorite house in Hampton Falls that's haunted. Maybe a quarter mile up the road, a mile max. And the house behind it's a brand new development. That lady was having problems, literally right behind the old house. And this house was not supposed to, never had any problems ever could find until the house sold. So I went back to the deed and found the original deed that was supposed to stay in the family in perpetuity, and it was signed. But because it was an old New England farmer in the 1700s, it wasn't signed with your John Hancock. It was signed in blood, the thumbprint. Well, after the generation sold the land off, they developed the back of the land. The first house closest to the house was having most of the problems. So, and then the main house. So I said, well, that's interesting. So I went to the Hampton Falls Historical Society, pulled some old photographs, and figured out why the house behind it was having most of the issues. Because the original owner died in December. If you died in December in New England in the 1700s, you were probably buried in your barn. And that's where the barn was located.
Okay.
Most people did not have gravestones back then because they were expensive. To be buried in the graveyard was expensive. You read a lot of New England history, family genealogies, and they say, "Yep, buried 30 feet from the shed under the old maple tree." Well, the barn this is in 1891. That barn's long gone, and the maple tree is probably long gone. So there's a lot of burials when they're building these new developments that end up, there could have been bodies buried there.
Oh, yeah.
Animals buried there for sure,
Yeah.
if it was an old farm.
Yeah,
So,
like Portsmouth, New Hampshire, downtown.
yeah,
A lot of the downtown is built over an old cemetery.
yeah, the old
African American
African-American cemetery, yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you don't know what they only put laws in to protect these cemeteries and graveyards in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. That's in my lifetime. I mean, before that, there was a lot of development. They just went in, they didn't check anything. They just, boom, build.
Yeah.
So that's why we have all these spirit activity in New England.
Good place to live if you want.
Yeah, and we're the oldest part of the country. Yeah. I mean, we are the oldest section. Yeah. California's new. I always love it when I hear people at a house once up in New Hampshire. People move from California. They go, "Yeah, we come from old California up there."
Old California.
Old California. Yeah. Old California. Post American Civil War. Yeah, that's old. Yeah. Old and maybe in the standards of like my 7-year-old niece, old, but
of course, I mean, New England is brand new compared to England.
Right, yes, or Ireland or any of those places.
Yeah.
That's why we're called New England. Yeah. And we've had quite the history up here, especially right here in the greater Cape Ann area,
Greater Boston,
Boston, North Shore. Yeah. I mean, the witches, in fact, up in Hampton, you had a little scare up there.
Oh, scare?
With the witch hysteria after Salem, but it was quashed pretty quickly.
I'm trying to remember her name. Do you remember?
Yeah, she's buried over at the Hampton.
Yeah, it'll come to me.
Yeah. Hampton Historical Society, right next to the. In fact, there's also a Viking stone there too, a purported Viking stone. Yeah. We'll leave it at that because I may have somebody else on to talk about that. But is there anything else that you could think of at the James house that was really interesting? Because I never heard of anything you talk about anything scary over there.
No.
Maybe a little startling if it was a quick whisper of the egg at the little,
Yeah, I don't think there's anything really scary there. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe there's anything to be worried about. So we do public events. We do public ghost hunts and seances. Mm-hmm.
And all the donations go directly to the James.
Every penny of it goes to the James house. We take nothing out of it. So no, it's haunted, but it's not scary haunted. And everybody that goes has some kind of a experience. It seems like every psychic that's ever been in the building all agree. Oh yeah, it's definitely haunted.
Well, that's interesting. If you could get every psychic, then you know you got a haunting.
Yeah, I don't think
bring 5 psychics in. You're always gonna get.
They get different things.
Right.
I don't think we've had any come in that said no, there's nothing going on here. They all agree.
Right, and that's huge towards classifying a haunting.
No, yeah.
Because some psychics will say, yes, you got something here. Others will say, no, you don't. Others will say, but if you have a 100% got something here, maybe they're sensing something a little different. Yeah. But if it's all within some type of spectrum like this, you go, yeah, you got a problem. Or not.
Well, not a problem, but you got
a haunting.
You got a haunting.
Yeah. So that's always interesting. Yeah. So you got the James house. Is there any other production videos you can talk about? Because
Well, I have one I'm going to be filming in a couple of weeks, going back to New York, to the famous Hinsdale House, where I was last September, Friday the 13th, full moon, with a thunderstorm.
Perfect for a good haunting.
And I got to tell you, it was the most active night I have ever seen anywhere.
Well, you had the perfect storm. Let's face it. You had thunder and lightning. You had a full moon, and we had Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's right. And so, I mean, this house is, it is, I would probably call one of the most haunted houses in the country myself, but it has a long history. It's known as either the Hinsdale House or the Dandy House. Back in the early 1970s, there was a family by the name of Dandy that lived there, and they were terrorized for years. They had everything you can imagine, from ghosts to cryptids to UFOs, everything. And they finally had to just run. And the house has just been haunted. Why? We're not really sure. We do know that there was an Indian massacre on the land, and that there might be a burial ground. The house might be built on a burial ground. We don't know. They're researching, trying to find out. But that's where I had my most. People ask me, "Have you ever been scared?" Well, up until last year, I could always say no. I've been startled, but never been scared.